Welcome to George Mason University's Studio A. My name is Rick Davis, and today we're lucky to have two guests. Writer-director Eric Espejo, Vice President of 19th and Wilson Incorporated, and Tanner Cooley, a producer and actor, both working on a new horror film entitled Ghosts Don't Exist. Please welcome Eric and Tanner. Thank you for coming in, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So, let's start with you, Eric, and tell us a little bit about 19th and Wilson.
19th and Wilson is an independent film company based in Northern Virginia, and really it was started because we wanted to make a film, basically. It's always been our long-term goal to make a full-length feature, and it's pretty much a virtual office. There isn't really a 19th and Wilson. There isn't even a 19th and Wilson that intersects in Arlington. But Aaron Goodmiller is the CEO of 19th and Wilson. He started up the company when he realized that I did film, or I was passionate about film, that as a writer, he asked me to come on board.
How did you meet Aaron?
I met him through flag football, and I created a little short video about our flag football league, and he thought it was cool, and that's when he said, hey, you want to make some movies?
Well, football may become a theme in our conversation later. We'll find out, but
that's right.
That's an interesting bit of information. You guys made a movie called TechFellas, which actually got quite a bit of play. Can you tell us a little bit about that film?
So Aaron and I are both in the IT field, and we're both techies. And we would always email back and forth and talk about funny scenarios that were from the movie Goodfellas and applied them to our day jobs, where the mobsters were techies who really controlled the office through the systems. And so we decided to shoot a short film, which is a parody of Goodfellas, and called it TechFellas. And it took off on the internet. Some people thought it was really funny. And then I get an email from a guy named Palak Patel, who's VP at Spring Creek Productions. And he says, this is hilarious. Have you ever thought about doing a full-length feature of this? Next thing you know, I'm on the phone with him. And it turns out I didn't know who Spring Creek was. And then when I did my homework, I realized they did Blood Diamonds and analyzed this and analyzed that. And so it was an interesting conversation. But that really opened the door and really made us realize that, hey, maybe there was some potential in going all the way.
So is that how you got involved with Ghosts Don't Exist? Is that where the...
Kind of, yeah. That's when I went out
that?
to L.A. and through meeting or through talking with Pollock, and there was some writer group that went out there. I went to L.A., pitched and had some meetings, and that was a very interesting experience. And that's when I realized, this isn't so bad. I think we can do it, and that's how I started to think about another script that I had. And there's a lot of scripts that you write throughout your process, and I felt that Ghosts Don't Exist was something that had some potential.
So you got noticed via the internet, via TechFellas.
Right.
And then you went out and pitched a number of projects?
To different type of producers. It was kind of a writers group that went out there, a very small-knit group that went out and talked to some producers, and we pitched our ideas and scripts. It wasn't Ghosts Don't Exist that I pitched out there, but that's how I got started in it.
Good. Well, we'll come back to that. This is a classic new media success story, actually. Tanner, let me ask you about how you got involved with the film in the first place.
Well, as you may know, I run a popular website for my brother, who plays for the Washington Redskins.
Does your sweatshirt have anything to do with?
It actually does. It's one of our designs that we have on the website.
And what's that website address?
It's thecooleyzone.com.
Very good.
Anyways, we have a spot where you can contact us for business development opportunities, personal appearance requests. And Eric actually emailed, I don't know if it was Eric or Aaron, one of them emailed us an idea for a film. And after some back and forth, he gave us a script. We looked at it. We decided that it was to the point where we wanted to sit down and meet with these guys because we liked the idea and we really loved the story that they had. And we sat down and met. It was a pretty intense lunch in Ashburn between Eric and Aaron and myself. And we signed on and went from there.
What was intense about it? The food or the...
It was a joke. It really wasn't intense. It was like, we need 51% of gross profit. No, I'm just kidding.
Right,
it was pretty casual.
Now, you're listed on the credits of this film as a producer, and you're also in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
connection there?
Connection. I play a doctor in the film. I have one line. It's pretty crazy. The day of shooting, I had the flu, so of course, something had to go wrong. But my part in it, if you even recognize me once you watch the film, will be pretty neat if you recognize me. But anyways, as a producer, I don't really know what a lot of Hollywood producers do, but Eric asked us to sign on. They wanted a name behind the project, and so Chris, obviously being a popular athlete in D.C., was kind of a perfect fit for that. And after talking with these guys, they asked if I would be a producer, just knowing my connections within the community. And so what we did was help raise money for the film and the project, and we generated some buzz.
Yeah,
And
well,
so that's kind of
typical producer role, actually.
Yeah, exactly,
In some ways.
so.
Now, Chris is also in the film. Yeah.
Chris has a bigger role. He was originally going to be the sheriff, and Chris has never done acting. And so we kind of, once we were talking, Eric said, you know, the sheriff actually has quite a few lines, and is Chris comfortable with that? And, you know, upon talking, we decided that maybe the deputy role would be better fit for Chris. So
That was a nice way of saying it. Chris
well, they
saw
hadn't
the
seen his
lines and said,
acting
"No way."
before, so they didn't know.
Had either of you ever acted before in any, like in
We
plays or
have a
films
YouTube
or-
channel that we act on all the time.
Okay, well, that's...
But no,
Right.
besides that, no.
Yeah, right. And Chris acts on the field.
Yeah,
You know,
Chris,
right, on the
Chris
field of
has
play,
a
right.
role on the field. He's actually listed on IMDb Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football, so that's pretty cool.
That's interesting. Well, we have a terrific trailer from this film, which we'd like to take a look at, and after we look at it, we can talk about it a little bit. Here's a trailer from Ghosts Don't Exist.
So clearly, you have your fans. So what's next for the show? What do you want to talk about?
You want an exclusive? How's this? I'm retiring.
They want a series finale. One last show. They've been good to you, Brett. You owe them.
I don't owe them shit.
I got a client.
I've seen Nicole.
This isn't amusing.
He guarantees you'll find activity at his place.
No.
There was another call about the Walters house.
You're not going up there, are you?
We've investigated hundreds of places where people have died, Richie. It's what we do.
You asked me what I heard. Multiple voices, but one said, "Come down to me."
Let her go.
We gotta get out of here.
That's a beautiful trailer, and so much to say about it. A couple of questions come to mind. First of all, the production values, just the lighting and the sound and the shooting and the quality of the acting in those clips is really strong. How does that? I mean, was there a significant budgetary commitment to this film?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we didn't think it would get. We didn't think we would get the red camera, which is really big amongst the indies now. But I really have to thank Cooley for that. I mean, we raised the money that we needed through him.
It's gorgeous
and
footage.
Got the right cast and crew involved. And not only because of the money that he helped raise, but because of his name, I think that a lot of cast and crew were excited to work on it for probably not the rate they would normally take.
And it looks like you had a full complement of crew, lighting and all that. I mean, it's all very, very sophisticated.
Yeah, we had a lot of guys that had worked on Transformers 2 and Night of the Museum, and I think they did it because they were Redskin fans.
That's great. I also noticed, speaking of the sports angle, that I noticed that Lindsay Sarniak, who's a popular local sportscaster, is in the film. What led you to cast her?
Well, we met Lindsay at the investors event, and I talked to her, and there was a role for a reporter in it, and I thought it was a natural fit, so I just basically asked her about it, and she was very interested in doing it. We also put Mike O'Mara in there from the Don and Mike show, or Mike O'Mara show.
Yeah.
So that were some of the local people that we put in it. We wanted to get some attention with that.
Wow, it's outstanding. We have some questions from our students now, and we're going to turn to the student audience and see if they'd like to join us. Who has a question out there? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kevin. Why is 19th and Wilson based in Northern Virginia instead of LA or New York?
Well, you don't really have to be based out of LA to break in. Now, once you're in, that's when you might want to consider making the move out to LA, depending on the role you take. if you're a director or writer and you really become a part of the process where a studio picks you up and says, we want to make movies with you, then that's when you probably make your transition. But LA, I mean, they look for material everywhere. It's actually, sometimes they look for material outside of New York and LA to get a fresh perspective. And when they find that talent out there, then it becomes a situation where you start to think about making the move.
Great. Anybody else? Hi.
Hi, my name's Samantha. If 19th and Wilson continues to be successful, will you continue as producer, writer, and director?
That's a good one.
I will continue as writer-director. You know, one of the things that you realize afterwards is just how much work all three entail, at different stages, of course. But if you're a producer, you have to. I had a team of producers. I had Tanner, I had Aaron Goodmiller, and Richard Friend, who's also part of 19th and Wilson. And you really you can't do it alone, especially with if you get the budget that you have a big enough cast and crew. You can't do it alone. And I actually, when I started in pre-production and production, Aaron Goodmiller took over most of the producer responsibilities because the producer really wears all hats, and Tanner as well.
Who's next? Anybody else? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Brett. What inspired you to make a horror film?
I like horrors. I mean, I love horrors. I'm always happy when I see a good horror that blows me away or I thought was really good. And it just so happens that horror, I didn't set out. I don't think about like I'm going to write a certain genre. I get a concept and I think this would be a really cool concept, and whether it be a comedy or a horror or a drama, that comes later. But one of the things about horror, when you pick your first feature, is you start to think about things like, well, horror is a genre that they say is easy to break in with because you don't need a big name attached. And if you look at like Paranormal Activity, of course, that's what happens. And so it just so happened that I had a good concept that happened to be a horror. But don't go trying to write from the outside in or the inside out, is what they say. They say that you write what you're passionate about first. Don't try to write what the market dictates.
Great. Who else? Yes.
Hi, my name is Ryan. What was the hardest part making Ghosts Don't Exist?
I would say the schedule. You know, when you don't have enough budget, or when you're talking about low budget indie, then you have to really shorten your schedule. And so there are a lot of things that can go. We feel very fortunate to complete the film because it's really an accomplishment to complete a film. Now we're in post-production. I feel very lucky to be in post-production because so many things can go wrong in production. So when you have only an 18-day shoot, if something happens to an actor, if they get the swine or whatever, and they're gone, then it could be disastrous. So I would say the schedule.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Andy. What are some tips you would give to someone looking to become a writer and director?
It depends on what you want to do. If you want to do both, actually, it doesn't really matter what you want to do because if you want to become a director, you've got to learn about writing. And if you want to be a writer, you've got to learn about visuals and director. Because a film is visual. If you write something as a writer, you have to understand that this is going to be on screen and you want to keep people's attention. So you have to think visually, and that's the same thing as a director. A director's job is to take the story and put it on screen and tell that story visually. So they're kind of intertwined. So I would say that they need to learn both. That would be the best tip. Is if you want, doesn't matter if you want to be director or writer, you have to learn both sides of the craft.
Let me follow up on that with you. Do you find it more artistically satisfying to do both jobs on a given film?
Yeah, you know, if you're a writer on it, and well, first of all, they talk about 3 movies that you make when you make a movie: the one you write, the one you shoot, and the one you edit.
Right.
And that's totally true because you write something, and in your mind when you're a writer, you totally have the writer hat on, and you say, "This is, you know, I'm in my own zone here." And then when you direct it, and you get that scene, that producers might say, "We can't afford to go to Paris." So
right.
So you have to think about ways to do that scene differently. So when you put the directing hat on, you do it way different. And then of course, when you're shooting the scene, if the weather does something and you have to shoot indoors instead of outdoors, and you rewrote the scene on the fly. And then when you go back to the editing room, you say, well, now it's definitely different from the script.
Yeah.
So that's what, you know, it's definitely, but it is satisfying in the sense that you want to be able to control the script because I've always heard stories about producer notes and studio notes, and they come back and they say, well, you know, they change all kinds of things with their script, and it's crazy. Right,
or the director can do that on the set too.
That's right.
Speaking of producer notes, did you find in your role as a producer that you were in the position to give notes to Eric as the writer?
Like he said, the schedule was intense, so I kind of knew that going in that we had a limited amount of time. And I was on set for a fair amount of the shoot. There was a lot of nights that we shot through the night for the night scenes. You know, obviously I didn't need to be there for that, and I just kept to my regular schedule. So no, I didn't have a lot of notes to give to him. You know, if it was a year-long shoot or something that we could see, you know, part of it edited, and then I could say, hey, you know, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that. But we did it so fast that there really wasn't a
18
chance.
days is a tight schedule.
It is a tight schedule.
That's amazing.
But
So
it helps from a perspective where if he asks me a question about a particular scene or a shot, it actually makes me think a different way because it's an outsider. You know, sometimes you get so tunnel vision into your scene, and if he says, why are you doing this, then it makes me think differently and say, well, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's terrific. Turn to you, Tanner, for a little bit of thought about your work with Chris. You were both in the movie, right? And you're both producers on the movie. Was there any sibling rivalry in the in the relationship on this film?
Not in this film at all. It was we both had different roles, and neither of them luckily clashed at all. Chris was the executive producer and the big name, and I kind of set things up and said, Chris, you need to be here at this time, and this is what we have to do. And so it worked out. It was smooth. Chris and I feel like we built a better working relationship because of the film.
Oh, that's great.
Just because it was something that neither of us had ever done, so we learned, you know, kind of this and that about each other. So.
Well, and you have a business relationship outside of the film as the manager. You're the manager of his blog. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's not just the
and
blog.
For anybody in the world who doesn't know who Chris is, can you just tell us about his outstanding NFL career in just 30 seconds?
Okay, so Chris.
I doubt there's anybody who doesn't know that.
Chris Cooley plays for the Washington Redskins. Is my brother. He's an All-Pro tight end. I don't know what more needs to be said about that.
That's good. Yeah, just wanted to locate that for everybody.
So
one of the great tight ends in the league.
A lot of people confuse the blog with as if that's the only thing that we do, but the blog is really a blog. It's a store. It's turning into more of a foundation where we give back. We do an education fund. We do a breast cancer fund. It's also we set things up like this through the blog. You know, outside endeavors for Chris. We've got a watch deal, a clothing deal. You know, now hopefully we can start making some movies. So it's a lot of different things encompassed into one company.
Yeah.
But what the blog allows us to do is drive traffic and keep a buzz around Chris's name and everything that we're doing. And so that's kind of what the blog is there for. I mean, it gives people an insight into his life, but it also allows us to keep an interest in Chris's life.
So did this film totally come out of left field, if I can mix sports metaphors, because the website was there, because the blog was there, and this just kind of came in the.
I would like to say that that's exactly why we got onto this film is because of the website.
There's a theme here. Not only the flag football, that's just a weird coincidence, but the idea that you got your start by putting something on the web, and that product got noticed, and then suddenly there was some backing, and then this comes through a different sort of a web portal. I mean, this is really just an interesting story about how new media and new technology is advancing what is in effect a traditional film, right? I mean, this is Ghost Don't Exist is a traditional studio type or independent type film.
Right.
Yeah.
Eric keeps mentioning to me that he wasn't just shotgunning ideas out there to all the Redskins. It was, you know, he narrowed in on Chris and he said, you know, because of this and because of his popularity, we contacted you first. So.
That's very true. I didn't send an email to spam all the Redskin players. I really saw that Chris Cooley had a blog, and I saw that he did a lot of different things and looked like a fun guy, which he is. And I thought that he would be interested in something extracurricular that was fun, and that's what film is.
Well, in all of the interviews we've done on Studio A, this is the first time we've had that particular kind of genesis for a film project. It's really interesting. Turn back to you, Eric, and talk a little bit more about your screenwriting process. You started to talk about how you work from the inside rather than maybe
outside in, right?
Yeah, rather than like picking a genre first or picking a desired end product first. Talk a little bit more about your inspiration. Where you draw from?
I mean, you have to pick something that you're going to be passionate about. You have to pick something that you're going to enjoy because you're going to get stuck with it for at least a year. And you know, it all starts with a concept, right? And if you think that concept is exciting, if it's a movie that you would want to go see, then that's something that you could be passionate about. And then from there, you have to really think about the beats of the film, at a high level, what are the things that are the catalysts, and there's all kinds of structure that you can learn about through various books and seminars. But
does that work for you? Do you follow at
they all say the same
minute
thing.
number 19 or whatever this has to happen?
No, I don't follow the exact page number.
Right.
But they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
And people say there's no formula, or they don't want to use a formula, but there's a formula. It's just how you disguise it. Because at a 10-minute mark, somebody's going to want something to happen to the character and engage them in the film. Otherwise, you'd fall asleep or walk away. But so that's what you do. You figure out the beats of the story, where you know what's the catalyst, what's going to happen to this character, what's going to make them interested, what's the conflict, the drama that's going to happen in Act 2, which is always the toughest thing to figure out. And then how does it end? The ending is the most important thing. They walk out of the theater thinking, you want them to be blown away. And that's the whole entire process. And there's so many things that people have different ways of accomplishing that. They go to treatments and outlines and then writing the script. But it's really trying to tell a story in a structured way where you feel like you will engage the audience. Now, if you disguise that in a way where you can, jumble it up a little like Memento, that's unique.
Do you know the end when you start?
Yes, absolutely. I can't. Some people say, some writers, it depends on who you are. I mean, if you're William Goldman, you can do whatever you want. But if I have to know the ending, it's like saying it's really a roadmap, right? If I don't know where I'm going, then I can't really map out what I'm going to do, and you could end up driving all over the country if you don't know where you're going to end. So you have to have the roadmap.
Did you, since you're directing your own script, your own screenplay, did you find yourself as a director rewriting on the spot or changing shots and?
Yeah, when it rained. And they said, and the first AD comes to me and he says, "I don't think we're going to get the shot that we need outside." And I grabbed the editor. We had an on-set editor, and I said, "Would it work if I did this?" And I just started rewriting on the fly, and then it stopped raining. And we didn't use what I rewrote.
Darn. But you had what you already wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So Tanner, as an actor in the film, put your producer hat off for a minute. Just Tanner the actor, right? Okay. How was it working with this guy? Did he help you? I mean, how did he work with you on creating your performance?
Well, it's funny because my shoot was one day, and it ended up being, I don't know, seconds in the movie, but
there are no small parts, That's
no,
what they say.
I understand
right?
that.
Yeah.
Every part has its piece in the story.
Right.
But Eric is so intense once from before we started filming, he was just this, fun, normal guy. Then when we started filming, it was tunnel vision. You couldn't joke with him. You couldn't mess with him. He had one goal in mind, and that was to get the thing done. And so on the day of shooting for my scene, that's kind of what it was. It was tough for me to joke because I'm a joking kind of, sarcastic guy. And so I was trying to joke with him and mess around and, fuddle with my lines. And he was like, "No, this is the line. Say it like this."
Oh, tough guy.
And he's intense.
Yeah.
And it took a few takes. We got it done. Unfortunately, I was sick, so I couldn't do it. He shout like he wanted me to shout, but it was fun, and he was intense.
So did he coach you, or did he actually just say do it this way, or was it?
He coached me, and it'd be easier for me to say what he did with Chris because they rehearsed their lines.
Okay, well, let's talk
because
about
I only have one line.
Yeah. Why don't you guys talk about because I'm interested in the writer-director approach, because a director comes in, directs somebody else's words, and maybe is interpreting a little more freely.
Yeah,
but the writer has created the moment, right?
I'm not sure what Tanner means by intense.
He's lying. He knows.
Well, he comes to me and says, "I'm sick. How long is this going to take?" So, no, but it was a lot of fun, and Tanner did a good job. He was sick. And actually, maybe it did help because he was supposed to be calm and collected. He was a doctor, and there was a crisis going on, and he had to be the calm and collected voice of that crisis. So he did fine. And Chris had a lot more lines, and Chris did really well. And actually, I've shown it to people, like our potential producers rep and other people in who's in the biz, and they say. They saw the trailer and they say, "Cooley did really well. We were surprised." They were surprised.
Yeah.
Because he really did take it seriously.
He looks good in the trailer. I mean, that's
that's
nice
and he took it seriously, which I really appreciate. He's a complete professional, and Chris was a lot of fun on the set. And then when it came time to just about for his scene, and he was getting makeup, he pulled me aside and said, "How do I do this?" Or what he would read it for me and say, is this the way you want me to do it? So he took it seriously, and I really appreciate it.
So was that the rehearsal process, basically? Or,
Yeah.
or did you have an off-screen rehearsal process?
No, that was when he was getting makeup done.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
talked to him, and we had the lines while he was getting makeup done, and coached him a little bit before that.
And then with a couple of guys who maybe have not done film before, I mean, how was it? I'm gonna ask you, Tanner. How was it to have the director say, cut, let's try that again, let's try that again, let's try that again?
Well, it's a lot like a football process, because when you're going through football plays and you mess up, the offensive coordinator, whoever's calling the plays, they'll make you run it again, run it again, run it again, run it again until you get it right. It was similar to that.
Did Eric have a whistle or?
No. He yelled cut, and then the AD yelled cut, and he had the most annoying voice. But it was
That's why they're hired, right?
The AD wasn't annoying. It was just his cut voice that he yelled, which became an ongoing joke throughout the shooting process. But Eric would yell cut, and then he would yell cut, and then they would echo cut throughout the whole thing, so you knew you were done.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, let's do that again.
That's
so
that real
do it
Hollywood
again.
feeling, right? To have all those voices.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the process. They sound, light, everything, and then it's happening, and then Eric says action, and then you wait, and then you do your line. And so it was cool to see it, and it was fun to go through it a few times. I'm glad I didn't get it on the first try, so I could see what the process was like.
Yeah. What's next for you guys? For 19th and Wilson, for Eric, for Tanner?
Well, we're focused on completing Ghosts Don't Exist, and we're excited about some potential things here and there. We did submit it to Sundance. We're on schedule to finish it probably in December, early December. We have a potential producer's rep who's waiting on it, and her name is Rana Wallace, and she repped Open Water, among other things.
Outstanding.
And so she's excited about it. She's seen a cut of it, and she said she liked it, so we're excited about that. And then she, producer's rep is someone who will really drive the strategy of what festivals and distribution we can look at. So we're focused on completing that, but I am working on some more scripts.
Great. What about you?
I actually just applied to medical school, so I'm setting up interviews and hopefully be traveling around the country talking to the different schools.
You'll have
start school.
a more unique interview than anybody else.
I think that's what most people tell me.
Well,
so.
thank you. Tanner Cooley, Eric Espejo, thanks for being on Studio A today.
Thank you.
I'm Rick Davis. Thanks for watching.